hello everyone. My name is Oğuzhan Ulucan and my friend name is Dijan Karakaya. We are PhD students at İzmir University of Economics and we are members of Signal Processing Group, which is led by Dr. Mehmet Türkan. Today I will talk about one of our projects, which is linear embedding math, a ghost-free approach. Today I will talk about, I will briefly explain what HDR imaging problem is and how can we use multi-exposure image fusion in this field. Then I will briefly show some related works in this field of study. Then I will introduce our static multi-exposure image fusion method, which is published in Elsevier Signal Processing Journal. Then I will propose our extension for the dynamic cases. Then I will conclude my talk. So in multi-exposure image fusion, the main aim is to create high dynamic range imaging content, while fusing the low dynamic range input stacks, while preserving the fine details with vivid colors. Of course, in our study, we take advantage from image fusion, linear embeddings, watershed masking, and we will also extend this work with the movement detection algorithm to prevent ghosting effect at the outputs. So high dynamic range imaging occurs when we try to capture high contrast scenery with our limited dynamic range equipments. It causes some information loss at highlights and shadows, as in the figure. We cannot clearly see the texture details of the building. So in order to solve this problem, we need to play with two important terms, which is contrast and dynamic range. So contrast is defined as basically in the image is defined as the differences between the bright pixel intensity and the darkest pixel intensity, while dynamic range defined as a ratio between them. So since there is a big dynamic range gap between LDR and HDR, we cannot easily project or demonstrate any HDR content into low dynamic range scenes. As in the figures, we lose significant amount of details at clouds and the sky due to that reason. But in the HDR side of an image, we can clearly see all the textures at the clouds and the sky with vivid colors. So as in our human visual system is actually don't have any high dynamic range imaging problem since it is in full range and simultaneously goes inside of this range. However, LDR and HDR is very limited capabilities. That's why today most of the researchers try to expand the capabilities of these two terms. So the solutions for HDR is actually both hardware-based and the software-based. The hardware-based is depends on the CMOS productions, the image sensor productions, and they are very costly. That's why most of the user-grade device manufacturers today tend to solve this problem by using software-based methods like tone mapping or multi-exposure image fusion. And now all of our cell phones today uses multi-exposure image fusion to produce high dynamic range like content because it's computationally efficient and solves the problems in the tone mapping like contrast, low subjective contrast or color saturation problems. Before going deeply in math, I want to talk about what image fusion is. So image fusion is a fundamental image processing technique which combines stack of input images and creates one single informative image which has much more detail and information than any other input image in the stack. And it's much more useful for both our eyes and also for the computers to process it. That's why they're using in wide range applications from medical to military systems. So multi-exposure image fusion was proposed by Tom Mertens in 2009. And the main idea comes from image fusion itself. And as in the figure, we have distinct informations from each exposure. So we want to keep these best quality parts from the image and blend them to obtain our final results. This fused output image will be an HDR-like content and can be projected any low dynamic range screen without any problem. So here there are some impactful math studies around the literature. There are many more, of course, but if you're interested in this field, I recommend you to check these works. So in our math method, we actually create a novel algorithm which relies on linear embeddings and watershed masking in the first time in this purpose, and designed for the static scenes, of course, and it creates a high dynamic range like content at the end. So our first step of our algorithm is the determination of the exposure step. If our input stack has more than 3 input images, to reduce the computational complexity of our algorithm, we reduce this input numbers to 3 images by using the PDFs information of each image and applying K-mean clustering algorithm. After creating our 3 main inputs, we apply weight map characterization. So this weight map characterization process is very important in multi-exposure image fusion studies, because by these optimal weights, we can keep the best parts from each image. So this is a new framework for weight map characterization, and we basically inspired from local linear embedding because of several reasons. The first reason is that local linear embedding preserves the local geometry and the structure of the manifold, and it's a very great dimension reduction technique. And by applying this linear embedding technique, we characterize our weight maps. After characterizing our weight maps, we apply watershed masking. So the general way of masking is applying some head functions, but these head functions are binary functions and causes some artifacts at the end. In order to solve this problem, we can use smoothing filters or edge-aware smoothing filters, but there are some trade-offs of them. So in order to eliminate all of these problems, we apply watershed masking method, which relies on morphological operations and morphological reconstructions. By this way, we can obtain at the end natural texture and color transitions while we're removing small blemishes without damaging overall structures, because morphological operations are sensitive to textures from the images. After obtaining our final weights and each exposure in the stack, we can apply a weighted sum average and to obtain our output image. And then we apply some little contrast enhancement techniques to enhance the overall quality of the image. Here's some our results for our methods. As we can see from the average, we can already surpass many other techniques in the literature. And here's some visual results for our work. But if you're interested in our work, you can check it from our paper, actually. There are many more statistical results and many more visual comparison in here. So while we are conducting our tests, we realized that our method is already tolerant to slide motion in the brackets. And that's why we want to extend this work for the dynamic cases also. Most of the MEF studies starts with the static for the static scenes, and then they modify their work for the dynamic cases. So we will do this thing like we want to add a motion detection algorithm to identify the motion by comparing the spatial similarities of the local patches firstly. Then if we detect any differences between the local patches, we will eliminate those patches and we apply our algorithm to obtain our fused output. We will compare our algorithm with the well-known MEF studies in the literature. So today I briefly explained what is a high dynamic range imaging problem. And I also introduced you with our novel algorithm. Since we get strong visual and statistical results, we published this work at Signal Processing Journal. And for the dynamic case extension, we will add a motion detection algorithm, and we obtain our optimal weights by using the linear embeddings method. So thank you for listening. If you have any question,